Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and I want to thank you for joining us today. And we have Liz with us, Liz Armstrong. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Good morning
Good
your time, I
morning.
guess.
Yeah, it is good morning, and we're in the same part of the world, I think. Actually, we met a few weeks ago at the Chanticleer Authors Conference, and you have a book coming out very shortly. And I said, let's grab the time right now and show people what you've got. So, what is your newest book? Be proud.
It's
Very
called
good.
To Be Worthy and Honor, and it's the second volume, book two of the Epic of Hotspur about Sir Harry Percy, otherwise known as Hotspur.
Hotspur. That sounds English to me.
It is.
And from the armor on there, I'd say it's 14th century England.
Yeah. And in fact, I was trying really hard to get a really good match for the armor, but I was limited to what's available, commercially online that the publisher could buy. So it's almost what I think Hotspur wore.
Hey, that would have been just about right. I'm a pretty big fan and history buff of that era. And so you're talking my kind of story. I like it. Yeah. So what got you into that? What's your background to get you this kind of a story, which would be what? Historic fiction? Is that how you
Yeah,
list
his
this?
his straight historical fiction. Actually, I guess the subgenre of that would be biographical fiction.
Because I, by the way, have read the story and and I enjoy it. I really do. And because of my history to it, I recognize how much you have had to study up on this in order to write this book. What did it take?
Well, it all started about a little, over 30 years ago now with my master's degree. First I was a political journalist for about 16, 17 years, and then had taken a new job in Washington, D.C. I'd been in Washington for a while covering, politics and stuff. Took a new job and got laid off after 6 months because the employer hadn't
Happens.
planned things right. And yeah, they suddenly decided they had to cut budget and so on and so forth. So I said, I'm going to graduate school. So I got into graduate school in history and I wanted to do medieval mostly, classical and medieval, but I found I had to, I had to focus on one or the other. So did medieval history. Um, I'd always been really fascinated by British history, so I wanted to do, British medieval history. And the other factor was that when I was 12 years old, I saw a production of Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part One, and just was completely, gobsmacked, as the Brits say, just bowled over by the story and in particular by the Hotspur character. So, I looked in the Encyclopedia Britannica we had at home, and there was a little bit on him, and I went to my local libraries, and this is in Indiana in the US, Midwest, and there wasn't a whole lot on British history, much less on Henry IV and Hotspur. But anyway, it always stayed in the back of my mind. So I got into graduate school, and after about a semester or so, I got an offer to go back into the news world, working part-time at night on an editing desk, a international editing desk, and go to school in the daytime. So I did, and then it just seemed practical to use the option of doing a master's project. My university didn't have a thesis anymore for
Mhm.
master's level work, but you could do a master's project. And my advisor said, that would be good. You're a writer and, journalist, sort of a researcher, and you could get was like 6 or 8 hours of credit for doing an independent study project. But then I had to produce something. So I was looking around for, what topic am I going to explore? And then it hit me, what about Henry and Hotspur?
What
So
about? Yeah.
that's what happened. So yeah, I did a ton of research and ended up with like almost a 300-page, you know, tome, nonfiction tome that was my master's project. And then, I got my degree then. And
Very
then,
cool.
was back in the news business at that point.
Hmm.
So I boiled on the advice of a British professor who was really nice to me, didn't, know me, but I wrote to him because this was part of his, my period was his period. He said, he read my whole master's project and he said, you should boil this down into a nonfiction article. So I did, and it took me like 2 years to get that published. But anyway, then I thought, I've got all this research, and it was just calling out to me, you've got to write a deeper book, but with all the emotion and all of that in there, but it's probably going to have to be fiction. So that's what I did. That's where the novel came from. It started out as one big fat novel, and I got a British agent who pushed it for about 3 years, but just we got a lot of, great rejection letters of praising it, but
Yeah,
the bottom line always was it doesn't fit our marketing plan now, and it's too long as a for a debut book by an unknown writer. Even at never mind that I've been in the news business for quite a
yeah,
while.
yeah.
But anyway, so then it just sat on the shelf for a long time, and finally, I about a year ago when I left the news business and decided I needed to do something, I pulled the book out again, and I'd already started dividing it into, like a three-part
Hmm.
book or the trilogy. So that's what happened. And then the first book was rushed into, I found a small publisher, and the first book was rushed into print late last summer
And that is to remain vigilant. That is book
to
one.
remain vigilant.
And
Right.
then to be worthy is book two. And you said it's a trilogy. You were get ready. Now you just got to be worthy out and for
Last
sale.
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, just. And so you're going to start into book three, and you've already kind of got that going all right, ready, right?
Right. What I have to do is write the first part because when you start out with the big long book, you don't
Break it
have to
down. Yeah.
explain after the first 15 chapters or something who everybody is all over
Yeah.
again. But
So
when
you
you
do
break
have
it
to,
into parts, you have to put in that background and write a new for books 2 and 3, write a new, exciting first chapter or two. So that's what I have to work on.
yeah. Well, it should be exciting because I do know the other books are good. Um, Now, like I said, I had a personal interest in this field in particular as I did sword fighting for decades, sword and shield, armor. And in fact, on my previous, if you look in my early years here, Author in the Headlights, you'll see on the big keeper behind me is my helm sitting up there. It's always close, by the way. And I'm
Oh yeah.
speaking,
Yeah, I haven't gone that far. What I did do so because I wanted to know what it felt like to walk around, with some
oh,
kind of armor.
absolutely. And of
So
course, you fight with, when you fight with big sticks, whether they're metal or wood or whatever, and they're 2, 3, 4 pounds, and you swing them like a baseball bat, you have got to have real armor because it is real contact, real weapon. When you don't
yeah.
play, well, you do play, you beat your friends up with sticks, but I did fencing in college, and I did broadsword also and pole weapons. So, yeah, and I've done jousting. So I know
Mm,
what that's like. I've won tournaments, many. Anyway, that's me. But that explains how much I enjoy your books and how well written they are and how
thank you.
periodically correct they are, which I really appreciate. So there, from somebody that knows at least a wee bit, I
Well, thank
appreciate
you
your
because
work.
I really tried to get the armor and all of that right, for
Mhm.
that particular period. So
And you did, yes. And
good.
because armor changed throughout the centuries, it
Yeah.
really changed. It's one of those things with, military. You have a better weapon, then you have better armor to protect from that weapon, which means you need better weapons, which means you need better armor. And so it works its way through history to where we are now. And yes, we do wear armor now.
Yep.
So, and every weapon is meant to get through that armor. And that's
Yep.
just a thing. And it's actually tough to think that humanity is based on that, but it truly is. That and finding
Unfortunately.
food. Yes, unfortunately, but that is our history, and I don't see it changing a lot, but I hope it will. And those short periods of time in history where things are nice and
Yes.
gentler and smoother, but there is always some portion of the world that is in conflict. Always. Just the way of humanity. And that's too bad.
Yeah, we're flawed.
We are flawed. We are, but we hope to get better. We should
Yeah.
get better. All right. So you've got a book that just came out. We'll go through Remain Vigilant is book one. To Be Worthy is book two that just came out. And book three will be out before terribly long because most of it's written. It just needs brought into this trilogy set.
Yeah, and into the publishing schedule. Right now it's tentatively scheduled for the end of the year, like December to come out.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm ready for the next one. That's good.
Yep.
All right. When it is done, get a hold of me and we will get it on our bookstore also. And these books will be available through DuramenPublishing.com's bookstore, and it can link to wherever they're sold, and as well as the Author in the Headlights. It's found there too. And for all of you authors out there that need bits and pieces of things in your work, um, DuramenPublishing.com has an author's resource page where you can find and connect with all those things you might need, whether it's cover art, whether it's interior formatting, or pictures, or any of those kind of things. Editors, it's all found there.
How about websites? I need to build a website.
There are even website builders and things in there too. So
Okay, good.
at
I'll
their author's
check it out.
resources page.
Good.
Okay. Liz, I want to thank you for spending your time here with us this morning and for getting these great books out. And I really have read that and I really enjoy it. So, to those about you, I recommend it.
Good. Thank you
Okay.
very much. It means a lot.
Liv Sevchuk Armstrong is how you write, and
Right.
look for her work. Thank you, Liz. And don't forget to come back to us.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for the rest of you out there listening, thank you for spending your time with us. Until next time.